we talked about when we divide by a fraction, we have to multiply it by its reciprocal. So in these, we're trying to get 1x because we want to know what 1x equals. So when we multiplied by the reciprocal, hopefully you did some of these. The packet's up on that front desk. We've had it for quite a while, but if you don't have it, grab one. So the reciprocal, remember, is the flipped fraction. So bottom goes to the top, top goes to the bottom. And whatever we do to one side of our equation, we have to do to the other. So these cancel out and become 1x, which is just x. And guess what happens over here too? It becomes 1, right? This is 1, this is 1, this is 1, this is 1. 1 times 1 divided by 1 times 1 is simply 1. All right, so when we multiply this side, we are multiplying by 5/3. We have to flip it. So this cancels out and we're left with 1x. Now we have 1 times 5, which is 5, and 2 times 3, which is 6. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Thank you. Okay. So now, same thing here. We have to flip the fraction to get 1. So we're left with, sorry, I shouldn't have put it like that. We have x equals 1 times 9 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. All right, do you see the pattern? You flip this fraction. That way it cancels everything out. So you have 1x. And you have to multiply this side by the same thing. These cancel out. So 1 times 1 is 1. 7. Nope, that's a 1. So 1 times 4 is 4. So we're left with 1/4 there. Same thing here. We have to flip this fraction. So hopefully you've practiced some of these. So x is equal to 4/3. You can leave it in improper if you'd want. 2/1. Here, I would cross cancel. So 2 goes into itself once, into 8 4 times. So 7 times 1, x is equal to 7/4. So this is just very repetitive, following that same pattern. These cancel. Whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. Cross cancel here. 2 goes into 10 5 times, into 8 4 times. Well, most of this was supposed to be done, but I can slow down. So 7 times 5 is 35. 4 times 9 is 36. All right, so what am I going to multiply this side by? 5/3. Good. I'm just flipping the fraction. So whatever I do to the left, I have to do to the right. So that cancels these out. So I'm left with x equals 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 3 is 9. So 10/9 or 1 1/10. 1 1/9, I should say. Same thing here. Instead of To undo 1 over 2, we multiply by 2 over 1. These cancel. So I'm left with x equals 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 1 is 5. So 6/5 or 1 1/5 should work. So today, what we really needed to get to, boys, stop. All right, get a packet and do these. We're going to be quizzed just on 1 and 2 step equations next week. So we want to make sure we're understanding them, right? I'm trying to get my hands on the VR sets for us to do some things with 1 and 2 step equations. So that will be fun. But it's been a challenge trying to request those. So we'll see if I can do it. All right. So 2-step equations start with the same thing. This is page 7. We have to always locate the variable. So remember, the variable is that letter. So if you need to define that, then we have to undo the addition or subtraction to remove Q. This Q is called a constant. It's just a number that's not really tied to a letter. It's being added or subtracted from the letter. And then we have to undo the multiplication or division to remove P. Remember, when we have a letter or a number next to a letter, that denotes multiplication. Sometimes it's going to be division, though, if it were a fraction, right? But that P is called a coefficient. If our coefficient isn't 1, we'll have to divide to figure out what one of those letters is, right? So it might be N or P or B or Q or whatever the case may be. All right, so we have to locate the variable. So here's our variable. Then we have to undo the addition or subtraction. So we have to undo this subtraction. Lucas, come sit over here. Make sure you have your packet and something to write with and do what you're supposed to do, please. How do we undo subtracting 1? Addition. Yep, we undo subtraction with addition. So we're going to add 1 to both sides. So here's where it's important that you're showing your work. If we add 1 to both sides of our equal sign, we're bringing everything down, right? Adding up our columns. So I have 4n here. -1 plus 1, that went hasta la bye-bye. That made 0. Bring down your equal sign. And I have 11 plus 1, which is what? 12. Excellent job. Now, what's still being done to n? It's being multiplied by 4. It's being multiplied by 4. See the number next to the letter? So our third step here is to undo the multiplication to remove the coefficient. So to get rid of this coefficient of 4, I have to divide by 4. Whatever I do to the left side of my equal sign, I have to do to the right side of my equal sign. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So I just have 1n or n. And what's 12 divided by 4? What's 12 divided by 4? 3. All right. Now, number 2 is going to look very similar. But first, we have to get rid of the constant. Notice they rearranged this a little bit. Don't let that fool you. We still have to get rid of this positive 1. So we're going to take its opposite. What's the opposite of positive 1? -1. So if I subtract 1 from 1, it will be 0, right? That's what I want. So whatever I do to the left side, I have to do to the right side of my equal sign. 1 minus 1, that is 0. Bring down your 4b. What is negative 11 minus 1? Negative 12. It's getting more negative, right? Think about your number line. So if you start at negative 11, subtracting means moving to the left. So more negative, one step. How do I get rid of my 4 here? Divide both sides by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1b is just b. That's what we wanted to happen, right? And good. We knew 12 divided by 4 was 3, but here our signs are different, so it's negative. All right. So first we have to get rid of our constant. How do I get rid of this 2? I've got to subtract 2 from both sides. So 2 minus 2 is 0. That goes hasta la bye-bye. So I'm bringing down my 4x. 30 minus 2 is 28. Now I have to get rid of my coefficient. I have to undo multiplying by 4. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1x is just x equals 7. I do talk through what that equals because I want you to be sure you're dividing by the right thing or subtracting the right thing. So if you're not getting a 0 here or a 1 here, then you're dividing or subtracting the wrong thing or adding the wrong thing, okay? All right. What is my constant in number 4 that's tied to the v? Which one of these things is which of these terms is my constant on the v side? So that's my coefficient, but my constant on the v side is this negative 4. So I need to take the opposite of it because I want it to be 0. So I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Notice I'm writing it right under that because that's what I'm combining it with. I'm not really combining it with my 5b. So I'm going to add 4 to the right side of my equal sign as well. This becomes 0. I have 5b is equal to negative 50. If I'm at negative 54 and I add 4, I'm really finding the difference. 54 minus 4 is 50, and my bigger number is negative. So now, how do I get rid of my coefficient? I want it to be 1, right? So I'm going to divide it by itself. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Negative 50 divided by 5 is negative 10. So the first thing you're asking is, what is the constant and how do I get rid of it, right? I take its opposite. So just like here, just like in number 4, here I added 4. So I'm going to do the same thing to get rid of it again. Always look back at what you've done to be sure you're following that same pattern. That does equal 0. So now don't forget to bring down your sign. I have negative 4m equals, our signs are different. 28 minus 4 is 24, so negative 24. Now, how do I get that negative 4 to become a 1? Divide it by itself. So negative 4 divided by negative 4 is going to give me a 1. Since I divided the left by negative 4, I have to divide the right by negative 4. So m is equal to 6, and it's positive because our signs are the same. So be careful because you're still seeing those integer rules come into play. All right, this one kind of flips it back around. So what do I need to get rid of on the left? Trying to get things away from my letter. I want it to be by itself. How do I get rid of that -2? Good, so I'm gonna add 2 to both sides. Do you see that? Notice I'm doing things nice and neatly and in line, so you can follow my thinking. -2 plus 2 is 0. I have this -2x that I'm bringing down. I'm bringing down my equal sign. -18 plus 2. My signs are different, so I'm finding the difference. Good. -16. 18 minus 2 is 16. My bigger number is negative. I need to turn that into a 1, so I'm going to divide by itself. So 1, right? 1x is just x. 16 divided by 2 is 8, and my signs are the same, so it's positive. Boys, I'm not talking to you again. I'm not really sure why Caden's sitting there. Is that your seat, Caden? I don't think it is. All right, we have a few more practice before I'm gonna set you free. Actually, well, let's do these together. I have to get rid of the -2, so I'm gonna add 2 to both sides. So I bring down my 5x. That went away. 23 plus 2 is 25. To get a 1 in front of my x, I have to divide by the coefficient. 5 divided by 5 is 1. Whatever I did to the left, I have to do to the right. 25 divided by 5 is 5. I have to get rid of my constant first, so I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. Please be quiet. Bringing down your 3n, your equal sign. -19 minus 2, it's getting 2 more negative, so -21. Divide by your coefficient so that we have 1n. N equals -7. Get rid of that 2. We're going to subtract it from both sides. Bring down your 3n. That went hasta la bye-bye. Bring down your equal sign. -27. Divide by your coefficient. That's your number in front of your letter. So m is equal to -9. Last one we're doing together. How do I get rid of -2? Add 2 to both sides. We always want to keep our equation equal. So that goes away. Don't forget to bring down your -3x. And this looks very similar to next door. When I divide by -3, I get that x also equals -9. All right, you have pages 9 and 10 to try on your own. I would say at least page 9. We can probably review a little with page 10. But at least 8 of these can be done in the next 15 minutes. Ask yourself, get rid of your constant, right? So your first step is to add or subtract. Your second step is to multiply or divide, but in this case, you're really dividing. You got this.